We are the Necrotizing Fasciitis Foundation, also referred to as the NFF, and we are here to spread awareness to necrotizing fasciitis, also known as NF. NF is an infection caused by bacteria. It can destroy skin, fat, and the tissue covering the muscles within a very short time. The disease, sometimes called flesh-eating bacteria. To learn more about NF, please visit our website at www.necfasc.org. That's www.necfasc.org.
Hello and welcome everyone to The Steep. I'm your host today, Tim Hayden. On today's episode, we've got Traci Kuhfuss. Traci is a necrotizing fasciitis survivor from Texas. Traci is a graphics designer, a recreational mead maker. She likes to enter her mead into competitions, and she likes to spend time with family. Let's add Traci to the conversation now. Hi, Traci. How are you?
Hi, Tim. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am great. How have you been doing?
I've been doing great. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of when I was cleared of everything. But other than, the little PTSD kicking in here and there, I'm doing really well. Back to normal life.
Well, we'll jump right in. If you would like to share your experience with necrotizing fasciitis, how it started, when, etc.
Sure thing. My adventure with this started February of last year, right after the big freeze that we had here in Texas. I just finished up pulling up all of the blankets and the covers for my trees, and I was outside in the backyard, actually on my birthday, ironically, on that Sunday, the 21st, digging up fire ant mounds because the freeze basically killed everything. So it was an opportunity to dig in there and get the poison down that we used to get rid of fire ants. And the handle on my shovel actually broke and snapped. It did not puncture any skin, but it hit me in my chest, below my breast, around the sternum on my right side, and knocked the air out of me. Hurt like heck. I decided, okay, that's enough work for today. I threw the wood in the burn pile and the shovel in the metal pile, went in the house, took some Advils, and just kind of rested, took a shower, made sure everything was, there was no break in the skin. Friend came over, we had steaks for my birthday. The next day I went to work. It was feeling worse, but nothing that wasn't like, out of the ordinary. It felt like a pulled muscle. And, when you're a kid, you have like the air knocked out of you. But it got progressively worse every day. That Tuesday, I left work early, came home, took a Advil and basically went to sleep. Wednesday, I had worked from home because it was getting worse. Thursday was even more bad. It actually felt like I had shingles because I could feel like little blisters and stuff, and I had shingles before. So I called my friend up, asked her if she could go and pick up some shingles medication on the way home from where she worked. And I ended up calling her back, and like I said, I really think something's wrong. I need to go to emergency room. So she came over, left work early. She let me see. So I lifted up my shirt, and right under my bra was like bright red lobster. So she's like, you got an infection. And went to the emergency room at the local hospital here. They weren't sure what was going on. They gave me a CT scan. They said they could actually see the gas building up in my abdominal area. And they rushed me to Galveston UTMB to the burn unit, where I rolled in, and they basically did the emergency surgery that night. The scary part was they're like, are your affairs in order? Because they didn't think I was going to survive for that night. It was that bad. If I had waited one more day, I wouldn't be here. So that night, had the first debriding surgery. The next morning, woke up in surgical ICU. My cousin and my best friend were there, and they said that was really scary. I don't have a whole lot of recollection on it, except that, they had brought me, my cell phone charger and a couple other things. This is a picture actually from the skin graft when they were finishing things up. But that's where the worst of it was. The size of the final debriding after the second surgery was like 13 centimeters underneath my breast and across my chest and sternum. That is actually the harvest site of my skin graft on my leg, where they took the skin to do the skin graft. After the second surgery, that was in the surgical ICU for another day on that Saturday. They weren't sure if they're going to do a third debriding or not. They left the the wound open so that the doctors could see everything. And they didn't end up doing third surgery, but they kept me in the ICU overnight looking for a bed on the recovery floor. And they moved me that Sunday. And I remember that being like the most painful thing ever because they had transferred the bed to the other bed. And I remember screaming so hard and so long and so loud that I actually ran out of voice. And it was crazy how much pain that was in, to be in that much pain and not actually pass out. I ended up spending the next 10 days in the hospital on vancomycin and all the crazy antibiotic IVs and whatnots. Got the wound back, and then they ended up discharging me for home care. And that was for about 5-6 weeks. And I had home health coming in to do the sponge changes and the wound vac changes and everything, because obviously I couldn't see what I was doing because of where it was. And then on April 7th, they scheduled me for the skin graft to close up the remainder of the wound, which had finally shrunk down to what my healthcare home person said it was about like that big on my sternum. So they were able to cover up with the skin graft. That went no problem. They were happy with everything. It went in to do the next phase of, let's take a look and see how the skin graft is progressing. And they pulled all the sheeting off, and they discovered that there had been another infection that showed up actually on my breast. So it was like back into the hospital, and that was another 11 days. And during that time, they were thinking, because the skin graft was failing and the way that thing was oozing, they actually thought that I had a bone infection in my sternum, which that would have been like really, really bad. I thought I was literally not going to make it at that point because no one was giving me any information. They had me scheduled for an MRI that took like 2 or 3 days to actually get in to do the MRI. And then they still didn't have any answers. The day that they were deciding whether or not they were going to do a skin flap surgery to close the graft or go in and do a bone biopsy to see if there's anything going on in the bone, I thought I was done. I thought that was it, because they said the skin graft hadn't taken, nothing had gone right. This is where it got a little crazy. Doctors came in, they looked at the graft site and everything, and Dr. Zapata, who was my doctor, started poking around on the graft, and he's like, I can't believe this thing it's healed and it's adhered, it's done. And they had the little powwow, and then the MRI results came back. They said there's no infection in there. They're like, we don't know how this happened, but you're healed, you're done, you're going home. And I crazily went from crying because I thought this was it, I'm gonna be dying, to crying because it was over with and I was going home. So much so that the doctors actually came in and they're like, this is like the best possible outcome ever. Can I give you a hug? So the doctors in residency were like, hugging me like, this is such a miracle. We can't believe you survived. So I still had recovery to do, obviously, regaining strength, regaining stamina, regaining my independence. Luckily I do work from home, so that wasn't an issue with trying to get into an office or anything, but it still took a lot out of me to sit in that chair for 8 hours a day was a hard thing to go back to. It's just nuts what your body gets used to for an everyday thing. And then when you have to try to fight to get that back, it's overwhelming at times, but I did it. I know that I am way more fortunate than a lot of the folks that have had this. I basically was done in about 3 months. Of course, having other recoveries that I had to go through. But the stories I read of the other folks, like years of going through surgeries and debridements and stuff like that. And I guess I'm lucky that I did catch it semi-early. But the place that it was at was just so hard to get it to heal up because of movement and restrictions and having to just having the big boobs. It was a problem. So I had to do some outside of the box thinking of how to get the compression garments to work and everything. I found some different weird little things on Amazon that actually helped to kind of flatten things out. But it's been quite the wild ride. It's been a crazy ride, and thank God for this group, because this really helped me kind of like see, that you can survive it and you can go on and you can do and regain all the stuff that you love to do. You just might have to go about it a little bit differently or a little bit slower, but it does come back.
So when you initially went in, did the doctors recognize it right away, or were you misdiagnosed?
So the doctors actually at the little hospital here, they figured out what was going on, but this was during COVID too. So trying to find a hospital bed, that was like the biggest thing. So I actually spent more time at the other hospital while they were waiting to try to find someone that had a room available for me. Because when they did the CT scan, they could see the gas building up in my abdomen, and they knew what was going on because of the area I live in Texas. We're down on the Gulf. So, we have high bacterial warnings in the surf anyways, but not that I was in the water, because it had been 17 degrees earlier that month. But yeah, as soon as I got into the UTMB, they knew exactly what was probably going on. Of course, you get all the questions like, well, are you this? Are you that? And it's like, no, I'm not, I wasn't in the Gulf of Mexico swimming. It was 17 degrees last week, asking you, it's like, well, are you an intravenous drug user? It's like, no, I'm not, asking you all the stuff that, like, well, people that do this normally get this. So what have you been doing? And I'm like, I was digging up ants in my backyard as I'm crying as a tear, I'm crying. I was digging ants in my backyard. My shovel handle broke. What do you want from me? Please fix me. But I get it. They see all the crazy stuff in the hospitals, especially at a trauma hospital. And I get they have to ask those questions. But, when you know that you're not those things and you're being accused of it, it's kind of like disconcerting.
So do you know what offending bacteria it was that initially started your NF?
Originally, there's a combination of them. And I apologize. I should have looked them up before we had the interview here, because I'd have to access it on my phone. But it was a really bizarre, super rare one, and I can send it to you. You can edit it like into the story when you broadcast this to YouTube. But yeah, they brought in infectious disease control. There was like a strep A, and then there was a helicoccus is what they called it. I do remember that, the helicoccus. And they're like, where were you at? But you picked this up. And I'm like, my backyard. I said, the only thing I can think of is, my backyard, my house was flooded by Hurricane Harvey. But that was like, at the time, like 4 years ago. And we've had plenty of rain since then to wash stuff out. But because it's down in the dirt, that's the only thing I could think of that, I got it on my body somehow. And the way that they're kind of explaining it to me is that because there was trauma in that area, it could have been in my system anyways, through a bug bite or a scratch or whatever, and it found a weak spot and it set up camp in that area. That's the only explanation that they really had. They said otherwise you were perfectly healthy except for that. Like, well,
it's usually a combination for a perfect storm.
Generally, exactly.
Has it affected you psychologically or emotionally?
Yes. I have a lot of PTSD now. I hadn't slept I hadn't gone on vacation or gone out and done anything like an overnight thing since all of it happened. And my work had our company Christmas party, which is like 2 hours from where I live. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be driving, 5 hours round trip to go do this company Christmas party. So I ended up getting a hotel room, and a friend of mine came with me. And I remember having a nightmare, almost a night terror when we were sleeping. And I woke up and like I said, did I scream last night? And he's like, no, you were kind of whimpering. I said, I had a dream I was screaming myself awake like I was back in the hospital. And he's like, I kind of knew what was going on. He's like, that kind of makes sense. But so I have stuff like that. Like, it hasn't happened really again unless I fall asleep on the couch. And I have dreams that I've still got the wound back on, because I spent my time on the couch when that was going on because it was too hard to get out of bed. I have a lot of weird thoughts every time I have a weird little pain or something that's like a normal pain. It used to be a normal pain. Now my head goes to like, oh my God, what if that's this again?
So how do you cope with your PTSD when it does start acting up like that?
I start calming myself down, and I start reminding myself of what the actual symptoms were. And that I have direct access to my doctor if I need it. He told me, he's like, you call, and he's like, find out where I'm at, and if you need to see me, then you tell my nurses where I'm at and you come and just see me. He's like, don't even make an appointment, just come. So that's like a huge relief with that. I've got all the gauzes and the Band-Aids and the antibiotic things and just all the things, the Hibiclens, all that. If I get a cut on me, I'm immediately in there washing. I don't use the pretty soaps anymore. I'm back to my just regular antibacterial dial soap. That's what I use now. I don't care. You know, that's
what helped you while you were in the hospital with the
Not a lot, because I didn't have really a whole lot of visitors because, again, it was COVID. I had my phone and I could communicate with my friends that way and my family that way. I watched a lot of TV. My one friend brought my laptop in to try to watch some movies and stuff like that, but you couldn't really wander the halls to get any exercise. It's like, well, if you want to get up and walk, you can do it like in the middle of the night when no one's around. I'm like, great. You know, the biggest thing of being in the hospital with the COVID was just the lack of anybody being able to come and visit with you. That was the huge thing. So just I try to tell myself, we made it through another day. We made it through another day. We made it through another day. We made it through another wound vac change. That was a big trauma for me because the pain was so horrendous when they would first do that. And they finally figured out, well, let's give her some pain medication before we do this. It's like, yes, please, you know, and give it to me like, you know, a half hour before, because of where it is, you know, it doesn't, it's a sensitive area. So when they're ripping that, you know, that adhesive off of you and taking your flesh with it when they pull that sponge out, it's like, yeah, a little pain medication would be nice, please.
that sponge right there.
Yes. So they finally figured it out, and it was kind of funny, but not funny. But like the last time I was there, because I think they got tired of me screaming and crying, because it did hurt. I mean, I have a pretty high threshold for pain. I think they got tired of me screaming and crying. But the last time before they discharged me before the skin graft, I remember them coming at me with the morphine, and they opened up my IV and they just plunged it. And I could feel my eyes dilate. That's how much they gave me. And I was like, oh my God, people like this? I just want the pain to go away. I don't want to feel like I'm stoned all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was tough. I'm just, every day it was just like, yeah, I'm through another day. I got through another day. And just, you know, they'd have to tell me, well, you need to eat your food. It's like, well, hospital food, you know? And I'm sure I'm not alone with this, but all the IV antibiotics, everything tasted salty and weird to me. So trying to like get things and keep things down was really tough. And it probably took about, I want to say June or July for my taste to kind of really finally return to normal.
Speaking of antibiotics, did you experience thrush or any side effects from the antibiotics?
I did have yeast infection on my skin from all the antibiotics and stuff, so I had to have the knife stop. So it was like, okay, now we got adhesive and powder in the same area. It's like, how is this going to work? You know, and they're like, I think they thought I was a little crazy because it's like, well, I said, I can feel it burns and it doesn't hurt like the infection hurt. This hurts differently. I said, it feels like I have a yeast infection on my skin. Oh, no, it's just irritated from the latex, the adhesive, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, this is not that. And finally, they gave me the nystatin powder so that they could get that dry. Because at the same time, you know, when you're in the hospital, you can't shower every day. You can't keep yourself like as clean as you normally would. So stuff builds up, and it's like, yeah, I really need to have this taken care of because you can't get comfortable either. You know, you lay on your back and you can't lay on your side because the IVs are all over you. But where my injury was, yeah, obviously you can't lay on your stomach. You can sit up or you can lay down. That was pretty much it.
Did you have to go through any physical therapy or anything? I know yours was on your chest, but
I did not. They had me just like basically getting up and walking around and building my strength was the big thing. Trying to, you know, get my balance back and stuff like that after being laying down for so long. It's amazing how much strength you actually do lose.
Mm-hmm. After you got out, did you say you had some home health that came by or helped, or did you just?
I had home health that came to do the wound vac changes. They came about every 3 days to change everything out, but that's the only home health that I had. I had a lot of friends, you know, help out here. It's like, you know, I give them a grocery list. They go get groceries for me or go get my medications, that type of thing. I didn't actually start driving probably till about mid-May with all this stuff. And I just made small little things around the neighborhood just to kind of get used to it. Made sure I was off all the medications, like the pain meds and stuff like that, because I'm like, I'm not driving on the pain meds. So it just is not happening. So it took a while to get back to quote unquote normal for me, for my normal, because I'm normally like, we're going 2 hours out to go visit this person or do this or do that. And I'm like, okay, well, someone else is going to have to drive. We're going to do that because I'm not up to driving that far yet. So it just took a while.
Well, from listening to you talk about your experience, it sounds like you had a really good support system. Was that
I did.
to-
I was
to your
really
recovery?
fortunate to have that. I mean, and it was really odd because my cousins were actually in the process of moving out of state when all this happened too. So they were going back and forth to Arkansas to move stuff. And then when they were back here in Texas, then they'd come up to the hospital to do stuff, you know, help me out and everything. But it was my friends and my other cousins, like, you know, if it wasn't for them, I don't know how I would have gotten out of it, quite honestly.
Right. Do they still help you, your support system?
Oh yeah,
you're
definitely.
a little
They
over
call
a year
it,
out.
you know, what can we do? You know, just making sure that mentally I'm okay and not dealing with, you know, PTSD stuff. Like I said, there are still some triggers that happen, but that's going to happen. I've accepted that that's going to happen. You're going to come across, like, you know, something that you wore while you were recovering. Like I have certain shirts that I would wear when the nurses came and everything, you know, to do the bandage changes and stuff like that. I got rid of them because it's just like, okay, bad memories, get rid of them, you know. We can buy a new sleep shirt or whatever. We don't need to have that, you know, hanging over us like this is what you wore because you couldn't get anything else on because of all the bandages and the hoses and the vacuum, you know.
Was there anything in particular that helped you out from your support system or during your recovery at home?
Ironically, my homebrew club was a huge supporter with me and just kind of keep me like giving me something to focus on. Like was the next competitions and I'm like, you know, Trace, we need you to enter this one. We need you to, you know, concentrate on, you know, getting better so we can get you back in the competition circuit. Fun story. The Saturday that they were possibly going to be doing the third debridement on me, I had my phone with me and one of the award ceremony was being broadcast that night. So I was literally laying in the hospital bed with my phone over my face, watching the award ceremony to see if I'd won anything. And I couldn't believe I got 2 golds and a silver and best of show in the Operation Fermentation competition here in Texas. So that was kind of like, I think things are that brightened up my, like there's a ray of hope type of thing that I'm supposed to keep doing this. So I'm fiercely competitive. So that was a huge like pick me up to like, okay, we got some good news with all this mess going on. You know what I mean? So
I believe this is your awards from that ceremony now.
Right. Yeah. The 2 mugs, and then there's two of those medals are gold, 1 silver, and then the placard is for the best of show.
That's awesome. I didn't really understand what mead was till I talked to you, and it's very interesting. I'm kind of interested in trying it now because I always thought it was a beer.
No, it's actually fermented honey. It's a wine made out of fermented honey and fruits and spices.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to try that.
We'll talk, and I'll get you some stuff.
Cool. I'd like that. So what do you have any advice for new people affected by necrotizing fasciitis that's going through their experience right now?
Basically, hound your doctors, ask the questions, and don't be sorry for being a pain in the butt because it's your life and it's your pain, and they're not the ones laying in that bed and having needles stuck in them and pieces of their body cut off. Ask the questions to the doctors, ask the questions to the nurses, be a pain in the butt because it's your life, it's your pain, and it's your health and your well-being. And you need to have the answers to the questions that, you know, will either allow you to sleep and heal or will cause you to be up all night. Like I had a couple nights where I didn't sleep at all. And my anxiety got out of control because I wasn't sleeping. So the biggest thing, you're your own advocate. And if you can't be your own advocate, get somebody that you trust that can be that advocate for you to get the answers to your questions. Because nothing will drive you crazier than not knowing. That's the biggest thing is just make sure you get your questions answered so that you can make your own plans for what needs to happen.
So since your experience, has it affected you by not letting you do certain things anymore? Like some people have a fear of water afterwards, or
Because of where I love the water, I love the beach, I love swimming. They basically told me that, no swimming, no baths for at least a year, just because, where your skin graft, can open and close, where your seams are and whatnot. And I get that. And especially where I live on the Gulf of Mexico, the water gets hot here. We have crazy weird bacterias. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just reserve my swimming for when I am able to go back to Hawaii.
mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's a bummer, but it's like, okay, I had to give up my beach stuff just because my health and my well-being is more important than going down to the beach right now.
Just so everyone understands, the Gulf of Mexico is different from the actual ocean because it warms up faster. The water warms faster, it stays warmer, so more bacteria can survive in it.
We also have a lot of river runoff, so the water is not like as clear as what you would get like in the Atlantic Ocean or around the Gulf of Mexico in Florida, or in California or Hawaii, because it's a closed loop. So all the rivers run down, and it just runs along the coastline, and you don't get that pretty blue water till you get about 4 or 5 miles out.
Well, Traci, you sound like you're doing great. You sound like an awesome attitude.
Thank you. It wasn't always that great, but I've worked on myself really hard. I had a hard time with it at first, but it's like it just day by day. You just got to. I made it through another day. I'm getting healthier every day, and you get through it, and your support system. And this group was awesome because I could go out and I could reach out and like read other people's stories, or I could throw a question up like, "Hey, this happened. What should I do?" Or how did you cope with it? So having people that have been through it answer your questions, it's not nearly as scary as what it is just going solo. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
And I remember reading I remember reading something on one of them. It's like, what you're going through right now is going to be somebody else's survival guide, and that's completely true.
And it is. There is not enough information out there or studies on necrotizing fasciitis, let alone after NF. So your best outreach is through someone who's experienced it. I mean, to see what they went through. I agree 100% on that. Well, Traci, I appreciate you being here and telling your story today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, you have a great day, and I will chat with you after this is over.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Tim. Have a great one.
Thanks, Traci. You too. I'd like to thank our guest, Traci Kuhfuss, for being here today. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we now have a Facebook public page also. You can like and follow as well. That does it for us today. Remember to be kind and to smile. You all have a great day.